Those phone calls, I was calling my mother. And my mother was telling me, you better stop calling me because these bills is piling up. And ain't nobody here to help me. You know what I mean?
So your lesson was inner strength. That's what it was.
Of course.
Wakanda forever. What's up, everyone? So I'm here today at the at a local bodybuilding competition, and I've never been to one, so I really wanted to check one of these out. And when I went inside to the auditorium, it was actually pretty empty. So it's supposedly an all-day event, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it seems like what's going on is like they're doing some sort of prejudging, but that's kind of independent of the audience. And then like the final competition will occur at 5 o'clock. So there's a few stragglers in the auditorium, and they were having a Q&A session. So that's really what I was, you'll see the footage of. I sat in there and I was really surprised about this Q&A session because I thought it'd be about, you know, some bodybuilding nutrition tips, which you get enough of on YouTube and podcasts. There's so many topics on that, but this was a special Q&A section because a lot of the topics ultimately ended up very quickly becoming about you know, personal development themed stuff. And even the panelists remarked on how it was a unique Q&A session. Now they did talk about, you know, bodybuilding history, competition. So some of the panelists, or one of the panelists, has competed with a lot of the greats in bodybuilding. If you're in the industry, you're familiar with them. Dorian Yates, and all these other guys that I'm not too familiar with. I know Dorian Yates really, and Kai Green and Phil Heath. Not so much the others, but they mentioned a lot of cool people. But it really went beyond bodybuilding, and I captured some of the footage here. There's a lot of good stuff, and really it's just like a small sneak peek of what they talked about, because they talked for a long time and I didn't catch all the footage. But without further ado, I just want to share this footage with you.
You're being taught that you're strong enough to make through it. And all those people you just talked about, their stories about getting past stuff, inner strength. Most people don't learn that they actually have that until they go through it. And if they don't learn that lesson that they have, they continue going through it with new lessons and hardships and things.
Well, I bumped my head plenty of times. It took a while for me.
I'm hard-headed too, I get it.
It took me like 25 years, in and out. From 1984 all the way up to like 2012 was like when my life started turning around.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
see, that's powerful right there. Yeah. I'd rather have a conversation with you than the guy on Wall Street that's making $5 million a year. I don't even want to go out and eat dinner with him. Ain't nothing I can learn from him. You know, because they paint this perfect facade.
No.
You know, with the watches and the suits and all this hustle stuff going on. I'm not interested in the Mercedes Benz and all this stuff. I want to talk to somebody that's been through a real struggle, like you said. You learn from that. You grow from the truth of a struggle.
That's right.
Especially with men.
That's right.
Men, God created us to fight, to be warriors, to go through the hardship, to travel, to go out, you know, to create things, make something out of nothing. And in order to get to that point, you know, it's not all about the sun shining every single day. You know, it's going to have to rain and pour, and you got to go to the dark places. And that's what gets you stronger for the journey to do greater things, to be a strong man in your son's life, your kid's life, and the inspiration, you know, that what you've been through. And that's your journey that you had to go through that to get to where you are now.
To be here talking to you.
Yep.
Had a lot to go through, but that's good. It was all worth the wait, brother, for real.
It's beautiful.
It's all worth it, man.
It's
real.
I mean,
it's all worth it.
Yeah, man.
It's all worth it, man.
It's awesome. It's amazing how when you don't quit and you accept those moments and go through them, it's hard. Not a lot of people can go through it, you know. But when you go through, that puzzle always ends up, it starts, boom, 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 boom. When the final pieces start to come together, then it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you a quick story, right? I was out for like 7 days, out on the streets, right? And I had to come from uptown to go all the way out to Far Rockaway. That's like about an hour and a half train ride coming from Manhattan, going all the way out to the last part of Queens. And I was thinking so bad, right? And there was a dude, he was thinking so bad too. Don't you know I had sat next to him? I didn't want nobody to know how bad I was thinking. I thought I was letting everybody blame him, but it was really me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, just to have a ride like that all the way home, I had a lot to think about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I, didn't even want to miss my ride, but ended up missing my stop anyway and ended up going back all the way uptown again.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happens.
Humbling moments, man. You're a beautiful man, bro. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's powerful, right, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, hey, we're at a bodybuilding contest and we got a little bit of everything going on.
Yeah, I'm so tired of talking about calories and all this stuff. How many sets and reps you do? That stuff don't create a man. You know, that don't do nothing. That's just the outer crappy shell we're looking at. Sets and reps and all that stuff. But we talk about some real life-changing things that we need to know about.
And even at 52, it's not near too late to do anything.
It's not.
I'm 56, and I'm about 195 pounds and work hard at it. But
Yep.
he's a lot younger and he's in a lot better shape.
Well, I feel like life doesn't start till 40 to begin with.
I agree.
You know, you literally, the wisdom, for men, I ain't for men, but the wisdom that you have at 40, like if I could go back when I was 20-something years old and know what I know now, like life would have been just insanely more productive and just better in general, but you know.
People always ask me, if there's anything about your life, would you change anything? I said, nope.
Amen.
I wouldn't change it. It'd be nice to call my father up and hear his voice because I haven't heard it since I was 10, but it wouldn't have made me who I am today if that didn't happen.
And you know, Kevin, I even followed you when you play music. And I don't even like music. Well,
Ankle Cantina.
yeah.
Yeah.
You were always the cool guy too, you know. You had the nice cars. You were a good person.
Thank you, Rick.
And you inspired us, all of us, in the World's Gym. And we had a nice family thing there for 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, we did.
We went all over the place. We went on boats and traveled and then went to Olympia. And
Yeah.
so, you know, here it is today, and it's just a different group of people that we're sharing with.
That's right. That's right.
But the journey is still going on.
It's not just music and bodybuilding too. My brother doesn't know anything about bodybuilding or anything.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, "You know Kevin Levroni?" I said, "Well, yeah. He's young." I said, "How do you know him?" He's in the movie Red Line. He was so impressed.
Well, I never heard Creed until I met Kevin Levroni, and then it was
Are you serious?
wow.
I used to play it all the time in the gym. All the time, every day. Duke.
That was on the soundtrack.
That's right, yeah. I want you to say a few words, Christian, honestly. About you, your vision, what you're doing, and how you got into the industry. Can you share it with us? Guys, this is Christian Duke. He's coming up in the industry. He's doing so much for the sport, at the shows, just interviewing, taking photos. I see him right here with his phone uploading things right now to his site on Instagram and just every single thing, man. And I wanted you to say a few words, man.
Yeah.
Christian Duke, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I got into, obviously I don't compete, but I got into bodybuilding probably like in the late 90s because of Kevin and Flex Wheeler and Sean. And that'd be an interesting group on an elevator. Sean, you, and Flex Wheeler. But no, I love bodybuilding. I really think the 90s, a lot of people talk about, the 70s and all that. The 70s were great, but I think really the 90s were like the mass with class, the symmetry, the real dialing in. Nothing against the guys now, but I mean, I think, the guys from the 90s would have blown them away. I mean, and yeah, and I think like Kevin's comeback was so important because, you know, the reason why he did it, you know, I mean, I think placings are good, but really, like what Jerry and Kevin were talking about, what you were talking about, like the sport is so much more than a trophy, so much more than a medal. It's like, you know, you're changing people's lives, you're inspiring people. You know, Jerry's story is very, very powerful, very powerful. And he's always on, you know, like live, you know, I don't know how you drive so well while you're doing the lives, but he answers everybody's questions. And sometimes I feel bad at like asking a question that's more than 2 sentences. I'm thinking by the third sentence, he's gonna crash into like a senior citizen.
Now you jinxed me, I'm gonna crash on some other
But I'm Hispanic, I like to talk a lot, you know, and sometimes I can't be concise enough for 2 sentences, you know, so I gotta talk a little more. But no, but you know, these guys have done so much, you know, and
you're doing a lot right now.
Yeah,
Strength Addicts.
Yeah.
You can follow them on Instagram. You guys follow Strength Addicts.
Yeah,
yeah. Right?
No, yeah, exactly. I would have a lot more followers if I didn't post so much, but I go to these shows and I put like a million pictures, and people don't have the patience for it, you know, and they're just like, I'm gonna unfollow this guy. That's all right. But I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm just the media. So if I even have, you know, 500 followers, I'm real happy, you know.
Yeah.
But I love what Jerry's doing too. You know, Jerry's got his own supplement company now. He worked with 5%. He worked with Primeval Labs, and now he's got his own thing, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Which is really good. If you can ever, the one thing I know a lot of rich people. I know money's not the most important thing, but if you are chasing the dollar, the only way to ever become wealthy is to own your own thing. Okay, and it's also the only way where you will put your best foot forward, and no matter how tired you are, you will always put out the very, very best because it's your name. It's all about, and with that saying, right, and with that being said, he'll never release anything that's lackluster or second tier or anything because it's got his name, like GIFT. It's got to be the absolute best because he's got his name behind it. The same thing with Levroni's Signature Series. It's got to have the absolute best or he won't go out. You know what I mean? So I think that's real important, but you started your company when it was right? When it was the right time, that's when you seized the moment, that's when you did it. So, thank you.
And what you're doing it from the heart, man.
Yeah.
Was this something that you always wanted? How'd you come up with the idea to get involved in doing what you're doing?
I always wanted my goal. This is strange because Steve Luckman's gonna call me and he's like, "Oh, thank you so much." My goal was always to work for Muscular Development. That's all I ever wanted to do. And then initially I worked with Dave Palumbo, who I love. You know, he doesn't love me, but I love him. He's a good guy. And you know, so I worked for him for 3 years. And then I did some MD stuff, and you know, I just did a lot of stuff. But the biggest thing that I love to do, and a lot of the magazines aren't doing it anymore. Well, there's no more magazines. There's only MD. But a lot of the, I guess, bodybuilding websites don't like to do is contest coverage. Now, Kevin's with Generation Iron. Generation Iron does a lot of contest coverage, which is why I really, really like them. But to me, it's all happening at the NPC. Even more so than the IFBB Pro League, which I'm very loyal to also. But I live to do interviews with local and regional competitors, the people that, you know, aren't really known. And sometimes I see something in a competitor, like there's a competitor, Russell Mania, he competed at the Natural Ohio. And when I interviewed him, he placed second to last. And he didn't even know why I was interviewing him. It was like, "Hey, don't you want to interview like the class winner, the overall winner? Why are you interviewing me?" And I was like, "I see something in you. You may not see it, but I see it. I see something in you." And now he's an IFBB Pro, and he's like, you know, on all the magazines, and he's doing ads, and everybody wants to talk to him. But when I talked to him, nobody looked at him twice because, you know, he was second to last. But I saw something in him. And that's what it's all about. And the pros are great. It's great to interview the pros. You know what I mean? I'm so humble that Kevin wouldn't even talk to me much, you know, mention me. But it's that local competitor. That is what bodybuilding is all about. I mean, of course, you know, but it's all about that local competitor. The people in the gym, they see him or her. The coworkers see him or her. That person's got to explain things. Sometimes their significant other, that's the worst thing, when your significant other doesn't even support you, but you still keep, you know, trucking along. They're the people that make the sport. It's that local, unknown competitor. And I a lot of times I see something, that local, unknown competitor, and all of a sudden I open a magazine and they're there on the cover. It's cool.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Good having you here, man. Lee, all of them had something great about it. And I'll tell you why. I think for me, well, just say for instance, inspiration that I got from Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? was the fact that he came over here. He was an Austrian, you know, and came over here, and it was the beginning of our sport going to another level with Joe Weider, and they came out with Pump and Iron and that and everything, and what he did brought the charisma. He's very, you know, charismatic as a Mr. Olympia. You know, just didn't seem like a bulkhead, stupid bodybuilder. And what he did, spinning it off into the movies and everything, I think that opened up. It brought a light onto the sport. So I think he's great for doing that. It's incredible what he did. You know, then you look at Lee Haney, you know, who came in after Arnold, and his body was, I think Lee Haney was the first one who competed in 240s. Yeah, 8 times straight Mr. Olympia, you know. And Lee Haney came in, Lee Haney turned pro at like, won his first Mr. Olympia, what, 24, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and was done by what age? I don't even think he was 30 when he. Yeah, but he never beat him. Yeah, never beat him as Mr. Olympia. So I think, and Lee retired. Was he? How old was Lee Haney when he retired? So he was the youngest Mr. Olympia, right? To walk away, but he had won 8 straight. I think that was phenomenal. He won 8 times Mr. Olympia, and the way he posed and just that whole. The way he carried himself as a family man, that structure came in. Lee Haney brought that into the Olympics, so I thought that was great, you know. And then then Dorian Yates came, you know. For me, Dorian Yates was unique and different because we never had a Mr. Olympia that was 6-time Mr. Olympia outside of America, you know, living in America. You know, Arnold had lived in America and all the rest of them had. But Dorian was from overseas, you know. And I asked Joe Weider, I says, how come I'm not going to ever beat, you know, Dorian Yates or anything? And he says, well, if I rotate you around and Sean and Flex and stuff like this, he goes, I'm not going to make any more money. You know, don't take it personal. I'm not going to make any more money. All you guys are great. You guys deserve to be Miss Olympia, but this is business. So Dorian opened up the whole European market for him. You know, and at that point I knew, wow, this is something going on in the sport to take the sport to another whole level. Was having Dorian Yates, you know, 6-time Mr. Olympia, and it did. It opened the whole European market up. But if it wasn't for Dorian Yates, you know, me wanting to beat him, I don't think I would have even trained as hard as I would have. You know, I had somebody to chase. I had somebody that I wanted to beat. You know, so Dorian Yates took me to another whole level because he inspired me to just train and go to those crazy dark places. I wanted to beat this guy. So that was something great that stood out, you know, completely different for me. You know, so that makes him great in my eyes. Wasn't for Yates pushing me like that, I would have never did what I did in the gym. You know, and then Ronnie Coleman comes along, an unbelievable person. I remember Ronnie Coleman, I beat him at the Nationals. Ronnie would get dead last at once he turned pro, Ronnie would be catching a train from Spain to Germany to France, him and Vicky Yates, because Ronnie didn't have a contract. He couldn't afford to take a flight. So him and Vicky would be on the train going from one country to another country. And in Europe, you could take a train, 9 hours, 6 hours. We'd fly 2 hours, but they would take 9 hours, 11 hours on these trains, right? Going from Spain to Germany to England to all these countries to compete. And I remember seeing him doing this in 1990, when did he turn pro? 93, 94? Ronnie Coleman? When did Ronnie Coleman turn pro? He won the universe, right?
Team Universe.
And he won the universe, and I used to see him on tour every year for like 4 years straight, getting dead last. He was a cop, spending his own money, him and Vicky, carrying the waters, carrying the food. I'm like, man, why do you even do these shows? You get dead last. Why do you even come out here and do these shows? I used to ask him these questions. I was like, you crazy. There's no way in the world I would go spend my money 4 or 5 years straight, catch trains while all these other athletes are catching the bus, right? And compete and get dead last. And that's what Ronnie would do. And I said, why you keep doing this? You know, obviously, you're losing everything. Why? He just, because I love bodybuilding. I was like, man, you crazy. Right? I was thinking, you crazy. Ain't nobody love anything that much. You're doing all this and not getting paid. You're crazy. So that's what I'm thinking. So, competed. I beat him. And then you guys know the story, what happened in Russia.
Vodka and the coffee.
Ronnie came to my room. I was in St. Petersburg in Russia. Ronnie came to my room and he said, hey, man, I want to ask you some questions. And he says, what do you do? What do you do to stay in shape? What do you do to, to win all these shows? And we had sat down and it was 11 o'clock at night. And I says, look, man, you got to relax. You're taking things way too serious, carrying all this food around, drinking all this water.
Meanwhile, you've been making fun of him for taking last place.
Right? Yeah. You in the gym, you train more than I train. Right? I did tell him, I said, you work out more than I work out. You take things too serious. You need to relax. And he says, I says, what do you do? Yeah, I'm a police officer. I say, yeah, all right, no wonder. Why don't you just have a shot of vodka, right? And I told him, just have a shot of vodka and just chill, man. I don't drink. I don't drink that stuff. That's what he said. I said, come on, man, just have a shot. All right, I'll try something. So I gave him a shot, and he sat there, we talked a little more. And I said, look, man, you gotta relax and just not take things so serious, I said, you want another shot? Yeah, I'll take another one. I'll take another one. I said, all right, I got him a shot again. It's about 3 shots, 4 shots, 5 shots up, right? And so it's going on 3 o'clock in the morning. And we have to get on stage. We're in Russia, right? We got to get on stage at 10 o'clock in the next morning. It's like 3. And I'm like buzzing big time. Ronnie, he was toasting. I ain't never drink this stuff before. It's some good stuff. I'll take some more of that, Kevin. I said, all right, no problem. Gave him another shot, sent him back to his room. Ronnie woke up the next day in Russia. Walked out on stage for the prejudging. Won the whole entire show. Beat me, beat everybody. Came back to America. Me and him competed again, Christian, in New York City. Ronnie beat me in the overall Night of Champions. Ronnie then went on to win the Mr. Olympia. And 8 times after that was 8-time Mr. Olympia. No one never beat Ronnie Coleman after that night that him and I spent together in Russia. And it was the most unbelievable thing. And I remember me, Sean Ray, and Flex Wheeler backstage. And we were getting ready to go out to do the final pose down and stuff at the Mr. Olympia because it was wide open. Dorian Yates had retired. And Flex Wheeler was pissed. Flex had his hands on his shoulders, like, man, I can't believe they're gonna let this fool win this show. And I said, who, Ronnie? He goes, yeah, man, I think they got him and he's gonna beat us. I says, come on, man. No way, they're not gonna let Ronnie Coleman beat all of us. You think? So I was like, I think we're fighting for second. Right? You know how Sean Ray, I think we're fighting for second. I'm like, okay, Sean, whatever. So we go out on stage and Ronnie ends up winning. Ronnie was Mr. Olympia. It shocked. I was in shock. I was like, no way. I just beat this guy like 8 months ago, overseas, tore him up on the tour. And he just took it to another whole level. And it was shocking to us, but it was a turning point in Ronnie's life because, even though Ronnie was giving everything 100%, Ronnie came back home and just took things to another whole level and took the sport, took it to a place where it had never been because he competed in the 70s, like the 270-some pounds. And I remember him developing into this Mr. Olympia guy. He had won, and he was in his 40s when he beat us. And then the next year he came back, he was in his 50s, and he was in his 60s, and he was in his 70s. And he just kept growing, and won 8 Olympias. And I'm thinking, damn, the genetics, the determination, dedication, and discipline that this man had to come from nothing, dead zero, dead last, at all of these shows, and to just stick in there and hanging out, and no matter what, he didn't quit and give up. And he came greater than any of us, greater than I was. And I'm sitting there laughing at him, and he surpassed me. Greater than Flex, greater than all of us was Ronnie Coleman. And that guy to this day has the heart of a lion, and the things that Ronnie Coleman is going through now, and the things that he had to go through to get where he is and to become 8-time Miss Olympia is a true warrior's mentality, and it can't be duplicated. Ronnie Coleman has done things unbelievable for the sport and created his body to another whole level. To me, he is the king, you know. And what he's going through now, no human man can even go through what he's going through now, you know. And to see him, it's like 5, 6, 7 back surgeries. I mean, you know, that's the warrior fighter mentality of that person. When I said, man, why are you even doing this? I said, because I love it, you know. But God calls us to do some unbelievable things that doesn't make sense to some people looking at us. It didn't make sense to me, you know. But who am I to judge this guy, what he's feeling or what he has, his vision? I never knew he was going to be 8-time Miss Olympia. But because he didn't quit, because he had that drive and that mentality, you see him fighting right now, fighting. Coming out of a wheelchair, can barely walk at these shows, still in the gym. Boom, 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 you know? I'm not looking at his broken down body, I'm looking at that spirit inside of him that's driving him to do that. And that's what drove him to be so great as an 8-time Miss Olympia. Unbelievable. So he is a true king. And I would say, you know what, that's something that, it's a history moment that we're going through right now that you'll never ever even see again. So that makes him great for me. After that, you know, with Jay Cutler, you know, I'll tell you a story with Jay. Jay was backstage, Jay was another one. I beat Jay, you know, beat Jay, and one thing that Jay Cutler was lacking, confidence. Jay just didn't have confidence. I beat him, we all had beat him. I beat him several times, you know, and I remember Ronnie had showed up at the Olympia, and he was out of shape. And I remember telling Jay, I said, Jay, I think you can take him. I think you can beat him. I think you can take him out. And Jay was like, you think so? I don't think so, Kevin. I don't think so. You know, Jay's real nice.
Was that the picture when Jay was laying down, you were like leaned over him?
I leaned over him like this. I said, listen, you better get your head out of your ass. You got one shot, you got one opportunity. I can't do it. They're not gonna let me beat them. Better get your ass out there and do what you gotta do. Go out there and pose and take advantage of this opportunity. I was leaning over him like this. That's what I was telling him. You guys might see that picture on the internet. It looks like I'm getting ready to kiss him or something, but I'm actually talking to him, giving him, saying, look, you can do this, Jay. You can do it. Get up, go out there, and take it serious and do it. And he got up, he says, you really believe, you think I can do this? I said, I know you can do it, man, but it doesn't matter what I know, Jay, it matters what, you gotta believe that you can do it. Get out there and go do it, man. All right, you know, and he's like, but that's Ronnie Coleman, but I forget about that. You gotta go and win this title. It's an opportunity for you. You got up, you went out there, and that's when he won his first Mr. Olympia. And that was it. That was it.
See, I don't believe that there is a best Mr. Olympia of all time, because every single Mr. Olympia, starting with Larry Scott, showed the world something that I had never seen before. You know, even if you look at Frank Zane, he wasn't the biggest guy, but the conditioning and the symmetry. You know, if you go Samir Benoot, if you go Chris Dickerson, if you go, you know, Jay Cutler, the only one to ever lose the title and regain it again. You know, like Ronnie Coleman took it to another level. Dorian Yates, every single one of these Mr. Olympias took the sport to a different, it doesn't, not necessarily size, but they showed the next evolution of what bodybuilding was going to become. And even Phil Heath, people say, oh, he's not as big as Ronnie. Have you ever seen the 3D look on Phil in person when you're at the Olympia? Like, pictures and videos don't do it justice. Again, Phil brought something that people just hadn't seen yet. You know, it's a genetic trait for him, but again, you know, like you can never say which one is the best Mr. Olympia of all time. They're all the best. You know, like they would have to compete against each other all in their prime to see who wins. But basic, 3 times.
What's that? Oh, yeah. I mean, every moment has its great moments in this season for being great and good at the time. I just say, you know, we enjoy what we have, the sport now where it is today, and it's allowed guys like Jerry, you know, who is a friend of mine, and he's in the sport. He's a trainer and he's a nutritionalist, and he reaches back and he gives, and he has that platform now. You know, before social media, if it had never came along with the media and the social media and the platform that we have now with you know, not only bodybuilding, but the sport has grown into classic bodybuilding, men's physique and bikini. I mean, you know, and that's why when people, hey, Kevin, you inspire me, and I'm like, man, just shut up right now. It's not about me. Tell me about you. So I'm finally finding out who my friend Jerry is after 3. What else is going on?
Well, maybe if you didn't sleep all the way to Pittsburgh, you know a little bit more.
Okay.
Right?
You are straight though, right?
Because
I asked Jerry, I said, Jerry, you see, tell me all this stuff about me and how, you know, you're not like that, right? He's like, oh, like, okay. So yes, you're a correctional officer, and what else, Jerry?
So I ended up tearing my knee up and ended up getting medically retired. I had to go through 5 total reconstruction knee surgeries on my left knee. My patellar tendon twice, medial patellofemoral ligament twice, lateral medial meniscus, and my MCL revised. People said, hey, you're never going to get back in the gym, you're never going to squat again, you're never going to do this, you're never going to do that. Well, guess what? I went back in the gym, and I busted my, you know what, and I'm squatting again. And, you know, as soon as I got medically retired from the Bureau, I was 26 years old, and I said, you know, I got to do something with my life. You know, I can't just be a lot man. I have my daughter to take care of, and I said, I'm going to go back to nursing school. And a lot of people said, ain't no way he's going to make it back. There ain't no way he's going to graduate nursing school. Well, guess what? I proved them wrong too. So, I mean, I think what drives us and the driving force in life is people who doubt us. You know, and that's probably the most powerful thing that you can have on your side. And like Kevin said, you know, sometimes you take those falls, and when you're at rock bottom, you cherish those moments, and you come up, you rise from that, and then you become a better person. And you can't be afraid to fall and fail at anything in life, because you got to take the good with the bad. And when you're at rock bottom, the only way you can go is up from rock bottom. That's the only way you can go in life. Yeah, like I met Kevin in 2016 in his Olympia comeback, and we just became really, really close friends, you know, ever since that point. And I told Kevin, you know, when I was growing up, like I said, he was my Superman, you know, when I was a kid. And if it wasn't for guys like Kevin and those guys in the 90s, none of us would be here. I wouldn't have, you know, my job, you know, with contest prepping people. I wouldn't have my job with helping people with general weight loss. I wouldn't be known if it wasn't for these guys. So these guys back in the 90s really laid the platform for us guys, you know, nowadays, and for, you know, the bodybuilders now. You know, he's one of the reasons why, you know, we're all here today and sitting here.
We'll take one more question. I think Megan has a question. You have a question, Megan? Chrissy?
I got a question.
What's his name? Oh, go ahead, man. You have a question?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that? For my company? Yeah. Yeah, we just signed 2 people. Did you see that? Yeah, signed two people this week actually. People want to know when we're bringing the Liveroni Signature Series to America. We'll be coming in within the next 6 or 7 months. Yeah, I wanted to bring awareness to the brand.
Okay, so I hope you like that footage. If you're wondering why I have this Black Panther face paint on, I was at a face painting event earlier this morning. Now, that's also just an example of kind of like squeezing the juice and making a normal or seemingly boring day into something that's a bit more fun for you. I could have just been at this face painting event and just watched the other kids paint their faces and just left, but I actually wanted to make it more fun for me. I think that's a life lesson, really. So I was like, you know what, all these little kids doing it, I'm gonna do it too, but I'm gonna get like even more comprehensive face paint. So I painted my entire face rather than just like my cheek. So, you know, 5 years earlier I probably wouldn't have done that. Probably would have just found it a boring day. So hopefully you got some great stuff out of that. I thought there was a lot of great points mentioned that I wasn't able to film, kind of out of respect. When I went up and asked my question, I did not put the camera up and like film them while they were looking me in the eye and answering my questions. So I paused the camera and just let them talk directly to me as a person. So I didn't capture the film of what they told me, but I'm gonna tell you right now what they said. And basically my question was, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can and can't control. Genetics, something you probably can't control. Is there anything you can do to really maximize and get the most out of your life? They asked me, well, is this about just like general success, or is this more about bodybuilding success? And I told them both. And then they started talking about a few main things that they thought were really important for success. One of them was the biggest that was emphasized was like being yourself, which I found interesting. And they pointed to a bunch of some people I recognize, Rich Piana on YouTube, and a number of other people that I wasn't too familiar with but were in the bodybuilding world, and as well as the world, the acting world. They pointed to The Rock, and he said they mentioned like 10 names or so, and they mentioned how all these people, they were all authentic. They were truly themselves on and off camera, and that didn't change. And because they're so authentic and honest, you knew what you were going to get, and you that's what was given, and therefore people could trust you. And the big point they made was that if you are yourself, you are original, and no one can copy that. And they quoted The Rock, who a couple years ago said that, you know, the most powerful thing you can be is yourself. So I found that interesting. It's interesting. The first thing they mentioned wasn't like hard work or persistence or focus. So that was fascinating, and hopefully you got something. Other than that, they mentioned how it's important to you know, find what you're passionate about and then start working towards that, and then kind of just, you know, follow your dreams and figure out from there. If they asked me what I was interested in, I said I kind of like interviewing people, and they gave me some ideas on how I could do more of that. So it's interesting how that plays out. Some of this stuff may be obvious to you, or you've heard it before. They mentioned finding mentors and following your dreams and finding out what you want to do if you don't know it yet. And so even though it's seemingly common sense, I think it's quite important. So it turns out that even though the schedule says 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., the actual spectating of the event starts at 5 p.m. and will probably go until 9 or 10 p.m. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend for the actual spectating portion. The 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. portion is really for the contestants to prep. And so what you'll see here is pretty much empty auditoriums, empty halls, and a few straggler athletes trickle in throughout the day, and prepare for the events. So nonetheless, I think I gained a lot from this, probably more so than if I had just shown up and seen the show from that Q&A session. So it is unfortunate that I am unable to attend the actual meat of the event, but I mean, I'm familiar with this. Nowadays, thanks to the internet, you can see a lot of this stuff for free on an even more massive stage like Mr. Olympia on YouTube. So it's not the biggest deal, and of course I can always attend the next event that comes up. So you just try and make lemonade out of lemons. Really cool stuff here, and I remembered one last thing that they shared when they answered my question, which was that the Q&A session portion, they really, one of them really emphasized Gary Vee. They kept calling him Gary Vee. He's referring to Gary Vaynerchuk, and it's very fascinating how this guy's name is starting to permeate and become more well-known, not just in the realms of business, which was the case for the last 5 years. That's where I knew him from. And that's really the only small groups who recognize his name when I mention it. But now, other areas like bodybuilding are starting to really mention him in these Q&A sessions. And they didn't just talk about them. One of the guys, panelists, really went deep on how this Gary has changed the game and started fresh pursuing what he loved when he was tired of the wine business, and how that inspired this guy to start his own fitness business when his original one was going well. So for me, it's pretty new for me, and I didn't get too much context since the Q&A already started, but still got some value from it. And I think another thing on habit formation and procrastination that I think a lot of viewers have been struggling with, that I think this is a good example of, is just the whole idea of doing what you can in small digestible chunks. So what we see here is me coming to this event, driving out here to this event, and just staying for what I can manage and going back. Whereas before, I would have not shown up at all. It would have been too intimidating or a hassle to do. So by breaking it up into small chunks and saying, you don't have to stay for the whole day, just show up for like 30 minutes, and 30 minutes turned out to be probably about an hour and a half, and I had a good time. And then I also tried my best to make it fun. You'll notice from a lot of answers of the panelists, they mentioned how important it was, or they implied or hinted at how a lot of these top athletes, they did what they did and persisted, not out of pure willpower, but through just pure love of what they do. So that sometimes inspires people to think, well, does that mean I have to find something that I love that has to make money and be productive, or do I just chase something I love? And that's a discussion for another day, but try both, see if you can mix them. So thanks, and hit that subscribe button. Check it out, the National Electronics Museum. This museum is right next to that bodybuilding show, so I wanted to see if I could check it out. They seem to have these space things here. I don't know if they're satellites or something to launch into space, or nothing at all. Maybe they're just props. Yeah, so for me, it's always great to squeeze the juice out of life, because for most of my life it's been kind of mediocre, so my days weren't always that spectacular, and therefore I've realized that the key isn't always to complain or wish that you could be somewhere or have something that you can't, but to not take for granted what you already have, and then see what resources and stuff you have at your disposal and leverage it. And even if I can't go inside a museum, I can at least check out this stuff outside. So this is some type of US Navy tracking radar for semi-active homing standard missiles. It's a major component of something in the mid-1950s for the Navy, basically. So I guess this thing was an anti-attack sensor that basically sat on top of this giant ship here, and they used techniques, was it to detect other enemy missiles or to kind of guide their own? Oh yeah, it's to guide their own. Nonetheless, really cool. Check that out. They even have little hooks here for people to climb up. And that thing's huge. So it is actually closed today, but look at the price. I mean, $5, that's like nothing. I've never seen a museum this cheap in a while. That seems to be pretty legit. Even though it's closed, I think another thing that I always try and do nowadays is, you know, spin everything into a win-win. Now that's not always the case. You want to be as realistic as possible, but usually there's more you can get out of life if you find the things that you can leverage to make it a win. So in this case, still got these amazing flowers here, but on a more serious note, the win for me not being able to go inside is that, hey, I got to see some really cool stuff for free outside. I didn't have to spend money, and now I have all this extra time that I would spend at the museum to do something else awesome. Whether it's, you know, produce this YouTube video, get it edited and published sooner, or do something else productive. That's all I have to say. Hit that subscribe button. See you in the next video.